We are here to answer one very important question. What the heck is tech sales?
Let's
So,
go.
to start, John, welcome. Thanks for being here. Can you define what tech sales is for us?
Let's go. Let's go. Thanks a ton for having me, first of all. Yeah, and you might have to correct me if I'm wrong, but from my understanding, my point of view, tech sales it's the sales org within a technology company, very plainly. It's a lot more than that. I don't know how you want me to start out breaking down this like the roles or anything, but I'll leave it there, and then you kind of guide me where else you want me to take it.
I like that. Yeah, that's just at the highest level, the top
Yeah,
of the iceberg. There are these software companies like Google. Um, name any software company out there. They
Google,
have
Oracle, like IBM, all of them.
all of them. They have a sales function, right? No one can buy their technology if no one's out there trying to sell it. And part of the sales function is to actually generate interest in the software itself, right? So the sales function is a big function where you have people closing deals, you have customer success managers that are trying to keep the customers happy. But what about the very first interaction? That is what the SDR, BDR, sales development representative, business development representative role, that's what they're chartered with. Their job is to go out into the market and generate interest in what these software companies are offering. Would you add anything to that? SDR, BDR?
No, I think that's everything. It's you're going out and just like it's sort of like lead gen, really, like just going and getting people on meeting. It's meeting setting. It's door knocking on the phone. It's door knocking on LinkedIn. It's door knocking on email. Like you're just going out there and finding people that might be interested in what your company's doing, so that you can pass them off to the AE.
Totally. And another word you'll hear is SaaS. So what does SaaS mean, John?
That is software as a service. Kind of what it means. It's the idea is that it's recurring revenue. If I was selling software, if I was selling a phone app, and Jack was a customer of mine, I closed Jack. I'm gonna get him on a reoccurring revenue, so he's gonna be paying me either monthly or year over year. And the idea is, hey, like this software as a service. It's not necessarily a widget or just something you're gonna buy and like use once and now it's yours and it's forever. It's kind of like it's gonna cost money to maintain, so you're gonna be paying into it as a customer over time. So that's what it is. That's why it works. That's why it's blown up over the last couple decades. Like people, they have a need for it consistently. They keep paying for it. That's what it is. It's software as a service. So you're selling a software and it's a service that's continuing to be used.
Yeah, if you think about your own life, any kind of Netflix subscription you have,
Yeah.
any kind of Amazon Prime, that is basically software as a service, right? You're getting a service, you have this monthly subscription, but we're thinking on a business to business scale now. So it's not, hey, how do I give you really good movies every month? It's, hey, how do we reduce the overhead you all have when you're filling out all these contracts? What used to take you 8 hours can now take you 10 minutes with our AI contract maker, right? So you're solving business to business problems. And that's why the price tags on these problems and what people are willing to pay for is infinitely higher than a B2C scenario.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the pros of tech sales. Tech sales is this like super sexy thing. Everyone's like, oh, get into tech sales. You're going to make a lot of money. You get to work remote.
Yeah.
So, John, from your perspective, you were an outsider at one point. What were some of the things that were drawing you into tech sales?
Yeah. I mean, the things you just said for sure. Like that's another thing, especially, a lot of the people that are watching your content, specifically Christian guys, like there's nothing wrong with wanting to make money. It's what you want to do with that money. I just want to put that out there. I know that's like,
Amen.
this is kind of a random plug here, but it's the love of money is the root of all evil. So you don't have to love money to want to make money. You can make money because you want to use it to glorify God, to build the kingdom. So that's something I just wanted to say before I even like said
That's
anything
facts,
about
man.
pay. But
No, in Deuteronomy, it says that the Lord gives us the ability
amen.
to generate wealth.
Yeah.
And, it's the heart posture. What are you going to go do with that wealth?
Yeah. So like, it's okay to be money motivated, right? And to make that part of it, and it'll make you you'll be a better worker. You'll be able to do more. You'll be better. I'm not maybe not a blanket statement, but it's a good thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, the pay, there's no, like, for instance, the SDR role, like that's even still, like that's the entry level role into tech sales. And there's not a lot of entry level roles where you're going to make, your base pay is going to be somewhere between 50 and then maybe on the high end 70, but more likely 50 and 60. And your on target earnings is, so if you're hitting quota, and I'll tell you, like, it's very possible. Like, I was an SDR on Jack's team. I hit quota every month. Like, hit quota, if not exceeded. Like, it's very possible if you're in the right situation, your on target earnings might be an additional 30 to 50K. So like if you're making like a 50K base with a 30K commission, like that's $80,000 as a starting salary. You might be like
crazy.
Like that's a crazy entry level role, especially in today's climate where there's a lot of remote jobs. Now there's definitely a benefit to working in office. I've never done it in this capacity. I worked in an in-office job at a very small company. I've never been on an SDR team in person. I understand, like, you're around people, like, you get to hear other people that are, like, already in their career, you learn from them. But if you're transitioning into tech or you want to break into tech and you have a family, like, it's very enticing to work remote. It's very enticing to have this high pay, work remote. You're not paying for a commute. Like, you're going to save a lot, and you could be extra present with your family. Like, you're still going to work really hard and put the results out. But those are a couple things. I don't want to ramble too much. I'll turn it back over to you before I add anything.
John, you come from a non-traditional background, and you'll touch on that in a little bit, but I actually was able to graduate college, and my last summer of college, I did an internship at an insurance company. And at the end of the internship, of course, they offer you the position. And I think the pay was either 50 or 55K total. And I was like, oh, that's good. Like, it's not amazing, right? It's an entry-level job. It's 50, 55K. That's good. Then found out about tech sales, and the base pay was 50K. And then the variable, what I could go earn, and by the way, this is back in 2020, this is 4 years ago, was 25K. So I went from like, oh, if I made 50, 55K, like that's a good start. That's in line with all my peers. But then I got into this job that was 75K. And in the first year, cleared 99K on my W-2. Like, praise Jesus, right? Like, that was a world's difference for me. And I was not expecting that at all. So let's touch a little bit on the barriers to entry, right? I just mentioned a college degree, and John, you have the perfect background for this. So talk about barrier to entry with tech sales.
It's low. That's the first thing. The bar is low. There's not many barriers. Now, you have to be willing to shift your perspective and do certain things because if you just try to do LinkedIn Easy Apply, just stop. I don't mean to be rude,
wasting your time.
Like it's not gonna work. But yeah, so barriers of entry. It's just my background. I went through a program called Praxis where I now work on the admissions lead over there. From there, I went and worked in a startup for about just under 2 years. I was kind of a utility player there. I got a good amount of sales experience, which made me want to get into a sales, like dedicated sales role where I was focused on just the sales function within a business. So then a few months later, I ended up working on Jack's SDR team. I didn't mention, I was never asked about a degree. Jack didn't ask me about a degree. I know a lot of companies aren't asking about that. I remember I put together like a mock email campaign that I thought would be honestly, like, I wasn't even concerned with like knowing the product super well. It was more so like, hey, here's this mock email campaign. Here's how I might go to market with an email. I wanted to send this over just to get that in front of them. But the barriers of entry are not hard to work, not complicated to work around. You do have to work somewhat hard, but you can do it if you're just willing to put yourself out there, even just a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. And this is an interesting conversation for you and I to have, because just for clarity, I hired John. I ran an SDR team. John applied, and he was one of the only people in the application process that did the job to then get the job. And that is what breaking into tech sales is about. I don't care what your background is. I don't care if you went to Harvard and you have a 4.0 GPA. I don't care if you have a felony on your record. If you can show me you're willing to work hard and you're coachable, that's someone I can work with. And that is pretty big across the industry. So you really don't need a college degree. I was able to help someone with a felony on their record 2 months ago land an awesome job, 80K, fully remote role. And I myself, I was in a jail cell. at 19 years old. I dropped out of college twice. I barely passed college the next time I went through it. And it was just by the grace of God in my life who absolutely transformed my heart, my life. He believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. God spoke life over
Amen.
me, and he said, Jack, you're created for more. If you live life for me, I'll give you a new life. And I said yes. And on that path, God opened the door to tech sales for me, to even where in my interview, I remember I was worried about my record. How am I going to share this, navigate this? But the Lord put on my heart to use it to glorify him and to use it as testimony. So I remember in that interview, they asked me something like, how do you navigate difficulty in your life? And I'm like, well, I was a 5-year drug addict. I was in a jail cell a couple years ago. I failed college twice. I have fricked life up so much, but I believe God has an incredible plan for my life, and I'm willing to go discover that through hard work and through commitment. And I think that transparency is what resonated with them. And now that I'm on the other side, I've been a hiring manager for years, interviewed over 100 SDRs. I think that's the biggest piece. I just want to know, are you a genuine person who wants to work hard? And are you willing to commit to being coachable and learning? Don't care what your background is. To your
Yeah.
point, John, about just about like you can't do what everyone else is doing. So true. If you're just hitting like easy apply on LinkedIn or sending resumes in, you are literally wasting your time. Stop. Go do something else or go learn how to do it the right way. I've got a free guide. I'll throw it in for y'all that shows you literally step by step how to go get a job in tech sales. I had a guy last month land a role. He went and submitted 1,200 applications was his guesstimate. For the past 3-4 months, he was doing that. Zero response. I think he got 1 or 2 interviews total, and started working with him, coached him through it. And I think 40, 50 apps in, he had 30 interviews and he landed 2 offers. So the point is anyone can do this. You just have to know how and be willing to put in the work. And that's why guys like John and I are here, because we don't deserve to be here. We
No.
don't deserve to be in the positions we're in. But God is so faithful as a father. And we want to make sure that men like you, that people like you understand these opportunities exist.
Yeah. Quick side note, Jack. When you, I just want to put this out there for anybody who listens to it and hears you say something like, or like, like you're wasting your time. Stop doing that. When it comes to like the easy apply, like that sounds to a lot of people, it sounds harsh. But first of all, like very hard truth, like get over it. Like,
Yeah.
and that's like, that also sounds harsh. But what I mean is like this game, first of all, life is just not fair. But when it comes to this, like this is not it's not fair. You have to be willing to do, obviously, like both of us, we're going to promote ethical behavior. But what I mean is
Sure.
like, you have to be willing to do things that are going to help you stand out, help you get the advantage. Like you got to take the advantages you get. But when Jack says something like that, when you say something like that, Jack, it's not a belittling thing. It's actually an empowering thing. It's telling people like, hey, like you're wasting your efforts. Those things are not being seen. And the reason is like when you apply through something like LinkedIn, like that's getting filtered through, first of all, just like a regular HR system at best. And then at worst, it's like AI oriented. It's just looking for certain things on the resume. It's not making a connection. It's just putting this through a system. It's taking your PDF and it's saying experience, that there's this number, here's experience. It's not something that's actually working for your favor. So the reason somebody like Jack would say that is because, hey, you may be a great candidate, but if you are only doing that, that bot that is reading, that algorithm that's reading your resume isn't going to see that, isn't going to understand that, because what makes
No.
you a great candidate would be your ability to actually connect with the person, which is why Jack teaches people to go do that and how to do that.
Yeah, precisely. Let's zoom out of how. Let's go back to like what and why. Why do tech sales? So low barrier to entry. Anyone can do it. Just got to be willing to work hard. Another pro of tech sales compared to some other sales industries and jobs out there, you get genuine coaching and support. I know that there's roles out there where they give you, your territory. They give you, you're responsible for knocking on these doors. Maybe they give you a week of training. Maybe go. No base pay. Your commission's all up to you. It's all on your feet. And there's no coaching. There's no support. There's no mentorship. So John, you transitioning into tech sales, not having like a true background like that. Can you just talk a little bit about why that's important, the coaching and support that's available in tech sales?
It's major. I don't think you can even adequately articulate how important that is, because if you take advantage of it, it helps you lay down a foundation for your career that will set you up for success for a really long time. When you get like, I came from a small company where some of my job was sales focused, and I didn't have like a training. It was very like trial by fire, which is fine and good for a lot of reasons. But when it
Sure.
comes to this sort of thing, the training is just, it's amazing. Like, I'm speaking from experience on Jack's team, but you have resources. So your company, if you're at even small companies like startups have stuff like this. Where you're at a company like this, they have resources where there's different enablement trainings, and there's, mock cold call sessions. Like, that's a huge one. Being able to work with your team, you're having a coach, like somebody like Jack or somebody similar, to say like, hey, we're going to get together. We're going to do cold call. We're going to review some of our calls and see like what's working, what's not working. We're going to invest in the resources that are going to help with that. It's just, it's prevalent across the board. Like, it's sort of the standard, and that is something that's just so helpful for your career trajectory, but also just like while you're in that job, it helps you get better every day, and you can actually see real growth.
And there's a few differences even there, where when you join a team in tech sales, there's a team there. There's other reps there. They're doing the same job you're doing. And if the company structured it right, then all your incentive structures are pointed the same way. So you just have people to learn from that have been doing it 9 months, 2 years, or they're new with you. So you're learning with them. And I think the reason why tech sales training and enablement is different is because they're onboarding you with benefits. They've spent a lot of money investing into you with benefits, with HR, with all these things, that if they don't train you and they don't get the ROI on you, then they have to fire you. And that's very expensive and costly for the business.
Yeah.
Whereas in other sales roles, you're more disposable because you're a contract worker, you're a 1099. You don't get these benefits. You're just, hey, we'll pay you if you go make us money. And that's why the level of intensity with support, coaching, and training is higher in a business to business context like this. Cool. One other thing I want to point out with business to business versus business to client or customer is lead lists are provided to you. So that's just a fun thing. You don't need to go bug your mom's neighbor's ex-cousin's sister to see if they'll sign up for your MLM program. No, it's none of that. Like, you are calling legitimate businesses with legitimate business needs. And yes, it's cold calling. It's hard, right? You get people that don't want to be called because cold calling is not fun. But when you identify someone that actually has a need, they are actually relieved. They're like, wow, this is great timing you called. We just had an issue with this system. We were evaluating new systems, and boom, you just brought in a $50K deal for your business because you picked up a phone and called someone.
Yeah.
So I want to be clear, something John said earlier about the application process. It's hard. Yeah, sales is hard, y'all, but the upside is incredible. And tech sales gives you the support, the base pay, the foundation, the coaching to have that more comfortable learning curve.
I think that's a major gain from being in tech sales, particularly tech sales today, where a lot of it's remote and the primary channels are phone, email, LinkedIn. I would say for a lot of niches, it's not it can't be universally applied, but for a lot of industries, the phone is still the most lucrative channel. You're going to get your best outcomes from there because it's speed to lead. Like, you're getting out, you're talking with them. It can't be said for everybody or every industry. But anyway, the phone, like, yes, it's hard. However, like, sometimes when if I'm like doing a day where I'm doing some outreach and I'm calling through and I'm feeling like not motivated, it's like, hang on, I could be out walking in the heat, knocking on doors. And because I respect the companies that are ethical companies, not like scammy companies, but like ethical, like door-to-door sales companies, like people that are even just doing like lawn treatment. Like, I respect those guys so much. Like, going out there and knocking on doors. It's hot, like you're dressed in like probably a polo and some slacks. Like, you're probably warm. You're knocking on, like, people are like, like they don't know who you are. They think you're a scammer. Like I respect those guys. So like that's a great perspective to have. It's like, hey, like this might be hard, but it's not as hard as that. Like that is a
Yeah.
different, that is like, that is physically outside of your comfort zone. Like at least
Yeah.
cold calling is like just a mental game.
Yeah, absolutely. Choose your hard. At the end of the day, life's hard. Like you can be fat and that's your choice and that's hard, or you can choose to go to the gym and that's equally as hard, but you get to choose. And that's
Yeah.
what's so empowering about life is that we get to choose our hard.
Yeah.
And if you're someone who's already doing a sales role, you're on a car lot all day, you're cold calling real estate leads, you're calling insurance leads, then you already know what hard work is. You can just attach yourself to a system that's going to take better care of you, that's going to support you more, give you more longevity and sustainability in a role. You've already proven you've got the grit and the work ethic. It's just putting you in the right vehicle to get you to where you want to go. So tech sales sounds kind of like a dream, right? Work remote, get paid a lot, it's fun, but there are cons to tech sales. I think one thing I'll say as a macro real fast is that there's always bad actors in every single industry and profession out there, right?
Yeah.
We've all had the dentist that did us dirty, or we heard about this lawyer. So that is true. It is not all sunshine and rainbows in tech sales. There are incompetent sales leaders. There are incompetent business owners. There are people that raise way too much money. They don't know how to manage it and they have layoffs every year. This happens. But for the most part, tech sales is stable. But I do want to call that out before we get into some of the cons that like whatever you do, there's going to be a bad actor in there. But John, what are some of the cons of tech sales that come to mind?
I mean, what you touched on is a big one, like the instability of the layoffs and different things, and some of that's outside of your control.
It's a grind. We just talked about that. So if that doesn't scare you, then fine. But it's a grind. You're going to be making 60, 70 cold calls a day. And your mindset shouldn't be, let me just go do this thing because my boss said to go do it. Your mindset should be, I'm going to do what it takes to go be successful. But that is a real con of tech sales when it comes to the grind. But if you're already doing the grind, then you might as well keep grinding as hard, but getting paid a lot more with better benefits and more career trajectory.
I'll just touch on that. I'm going to say that the grind, and also like sometimes you may feel like you're butting heads with leadership. Like the leadership is moving in one direction and you don't agree with the philosophy, but you're, you don't have decision making power in your organization, and like that can be challenging. You're going to be grinding that's a given. If you're not grinding, you're doing something wrong, because it's an entry level job, and you're early in your career, especially if you're in your 20s. Even like I'm married and have a kid, and like the constant thing you hear is like, if you're in your 20s, you're young, you're single, you should be working really hard and this and that. And sometimes you're like, oh yeah, but like if you have so that you can have a family and be focused. Like I now like have an extra motivation to like work hard, to be like focused. I just want to be more diligent about how I'm spending my time so that I'm still being intentional. And that's a daily like challenge and wrestle and figure out like, how do I do that? But that's kind of a side point. What I mean is you're going to be grinding, like no matter what life stage you're in. If you're in a role like this, if you get into tech, you should be grinding, because you're going to feel rewarded on the other end of it. But also it's just going to be tough. Like you're going to be making a lot of dials, you're going to be making, Jackie might have said this, like 50, 60, 70, a lot of times the standard is 100, maybe more than 100. And maybe your company invests in like an auto dialer. Maybe your company, maybe they don't though. And so like you're going to be working really hard, but you used to say this all the time, like it's a sprint, not a marathon. Like I think you used to say it's like the 800, right? Like it's kind of like, it's going to take some time, but you still have to sprint it. Like, and that's super valid. You're going to be working really hard. So that's one drawback, but you already kind of said it. Choose your hard. Like if you're going to be doing, if life's going to be hard anyway, you might as well get the opportunity to choose which hard you're going to do.
Yeah.
And then
absolutely.
one other drawback I would say is like sometimes leadership, whether that's C-level, whether that's your SDR manager, whether that's one of the VPs of sales or just the sales manager, depending on what it's called at your company, you might not agree with like decisions they're making. But like, again, you're not going to agree with everybody in any situation. There's always going to be bad actors, and there's always going to be people that just like, they're fine. They're perfectly fine. They see it a different way. They're seeing it from a different angle. And you're just going to have to learn how to do that. So that's a major draw.
Something I tell my reps all the time, and I always have as an SDR leader, is your job is to do so good at this job that you get promoted. Like you shouldn't be in this role for more than a year, year and a half, right?
Hmm.
Some SDRs are in their role for 2 years or whatever, but if you hate this role, good, then get really good at it so you get promoted and you never have to look back and you can go make real money as an account executive, as a manager. And I think that's the point of tech sales. It comes back to being a meritocracy. The opportunity here is massive because this entry level sales role is a vehicle to take
Mm.
you to the next step. And I think that's a huge pro to tech sales is what is the long-term upside, right? And so just to touch on that briefly, typically you'll come in at a 80, 90K entry level role. If you do well, you get promoted to like a senior SDR. You'll do that like 6 months to a year. You'll get paid a little more. Maybe it's 90K if you were 80 before. Maybe it's 100 if you were 90. Then you'll be able to promote forward to a few different paths from there. So you can go a traditional account executive route. You'll probably start as like an inside sales rep or a junior AE. You'll be working smaller deal sizes in the SMB type markets. And you're probably getting paid anywhere from like 100 to 130 in those roles. If you do well there, you promote forward to mid market, usually like 150 to maybe 170 in that range. Do well there, you keep moving up. And this is not an overstatement. I know people, many people in tech sales averaging 300 to 500K a year. I know people that have been paid over $1 million a year in sales. There is no ceiling with income and earning potential in tech sales. That's the individual seller route. The route I went down a manager route. Still really good money. My wife doesn't work. We own a house, praise God. But as a manager, your earning potential just caps off sooner and earlier in the role that I'm in. But point is you can make anywhere from 200 to 500K easily in tech sales. I say easily because it's going to require you to bleed, to sweat, to cry. But you're from home, you're with the
Yeah.
family, and you're just getting after it, getting paid good money. So,
Yeah.
John, anything to add there with like earning potential and longevity?
No, I think you hit it right hit the nail on the head. I would adjust your statement, not because it's wrong. I just think I would adjust this. I would say you can make it simply because the path is very simple,
Yeah,
but
that's
it's gonna
good.
be hard work. It's a simple path. If you have decent leadership, you can get there, like the path. And
Yeah.
I'm not speaking from experience because I took sort of a different path. Like what I'm doing as the admissions lead at Praxis is sort of different. It's not the same thing as the traditional tech sales path, but like I know people that took that path, and it's very simply laid out. You SDR, you put in the work, and you just keep carrying yourself well and doing a great job. You're gonna get those opportunities at one point or another. It's just gonna be hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. And your path is encouraging because you came in with no college degree, no formal training. You learned how to do the job to get the job. You kicked butt. I mean, you broke records at our program that had been set for like 2 years. Like you just crushed it. And we were considering a promotion for you to senior SDR at 6 months in. Like that's unreal. And then because you were doing such a good job there, Praxis opened the door to you because now you've learned sales, you're crushing it. So point is once you get in, once you learn these skills, they transfer anywhere in
Huge.
your life,
Yeah.
anywhere. So why might someone not be a fit for tech sales?
Yeah. No, it's great. And I think if somebody's not a fit for tech sales, it may just be because they're not a fit for sales. Because I would say
Fair.
that this is maybe it's more niche, but a lot of times like sales itself is just stressful. I mean, life is stressful, but sales itself, it's very, if you're not good with, like my pay is sort of unpredictable because it's contingent upon performance. If you don't like that your pay is contingent upon performance, you're probably not going to be a fit for tech sales because it's going to change. Like most structures, like your second paycheck of the month, like it's going to be reflective of maybe reflective of the previous month's performance. And it's going to be the same base, but it's going to vary based on your performance. Like, hey, like if you only hit like 50% of your quota, like it's going to be pretty low. If you
Yeah.
hit 120% of your quota, it's going to be pretty high. But if you don't like that, if that stresses you out to the point where you're not willing to get past it and reap the benefits, if it's not something you're willing to take on in order to get a little bit further, then you're probably not a fit, and that might be okay.
Hmm.
That would be like one thing. That was like one major thing. If you're not okay with, it's not that it's completely unpredictable, but it is like other industries. You show up, clock in, you do what you're supposed to do. You're gonna get paid. You're gonna get paid. You're gonna get paid. But it's not based on you're. In some ways, you're trading time for money, which is okay if you're okay with that. Like that's a good caveat. But if you're, I think it's a great thing to be able to in impact your pay so directly. But that would be like one major thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what other thoughts you'd have there, but I would say that's one major thing is to just be
Yeah.
aware of that.
And to that tune, I myself grew up in a military family and I was going to go down a government path where everything's very regimented. If you do this in this amount of time, you're going to get this pay. And you can literally forecast your entire 30, 40, 50-year career in the government based on the government pay scales. That's what I was going to go do. When I was introduced to tech sales, it freaked me out. It's like, wait, no, I don't want commission to be variable. I don't want quota. I don't want that pressure. I don't know how I'm going to handle that. And what I learned is that if you're just willing to work, which looking back at my life, I realized, okay, I was willing to work. Athlete growing up, did my own like neighborhood landscaping business, right? So I wasn't afraid of hard work, and I just had to take that step of faith and trust that God was guiding me the right way. And my goodness, if I went down the government path, my life would be radically different, not in a good way, not in a good way. I would still be 10 years away from where I am right now today. It's that simple. So another factor or someone who might not be a good fit for tech sales is if they lack initiative, if they need to be spoon fed. So there's a difference between hand holding and spoon feeding. I think hand holding is beautiful. I think we need mentorship, we need coaching. In fact, when I find that an SDR is willing to do literally what I tell him to do, that's a really good sign of future success. But if they're sitting on their hands, just waiting to be told what to do, how do I do this? Or what's going on here? And they're not proactively seeking answers to those questions, then they're not going to do well. So if you lack initiative, if you're not a self-starter, if you need people to spoon feed you answers, spoon feed you resources, this ain't it for you.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who's willing to be coached, you do like to research on your own. Maybe you're on YouTube a lot, looking up different topics. You like reading. If you're a go-getter, this is definitely a good path for you.
Agreed. 100%. That's a great point. You can't be you got to be willing to die to self and not take on criticism too personally, like be able to take value from something that's said. I don't always love this this next phrase, because I do think it's important as people, like as individuals, to watch our tone, but I do like it as the recipient is to
Mm-hmm.
hear the message but not the tone. Like that's an old like coaching, like sports thing, like particularly football coaches just scream their heads off. And like when you're a kid, especially if you're a sensitive kid or tend to be sensitive, it's hard to hear what they're saying because you're like, man, like he's screaming at me, and like I didn't like to be screamed at.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to be okay with that. But being able to hear what they're saying, because maybe there's some value there. Like he may be screaming, but maybe there's some value there. So that just having that thick skin, because you're gonna need that on the phones too. But also like what you're saying, you shouldn't want to be a spoon-fed somebody who needs to be spoon-fed in general, though. Like it's
No.
not, that's not something that, like, again, it's very similar to it's another, like, sounds harsh, but what it is like, no, that's a protection and a push to be better. Because if you're just sitting around waiting for somebody to hand you things and spoon feed, like, you're only going to get as far as other people want you to go. And we live in a world where when it comes down to it, other people don't care about you.
No.
Like there's like Christ cares about you, and then people who, and this is I don't want to be polarizing, but what I'm saying is, like, when it comes down to it, like, we live in a broken, sinful world. Like the incentive to succeed outside of Christ is not set up in a way where like you hear a lot about the greater good and different things, but if it's not within Christ, like, it ultimately comes down to selfish gain. So
Yep.
you have to be willing to go get things. And that's this is, now I'm preaching, but what I mean is, like, you have to be willing to, like, say, like, no, I'm going to take this by the hand, like, I'm going to take this bull by the horns, and I'm going to go get what I want, again, in an ethical way.
Yeah.
So that's what Jack's touching on. Hopefully Hopefully I don't end
Yeah.
up on like on somebody getting really this will totally end up on like LinkedIn lunatics
No,
or something like that.
the Bible says to speak truth in love, and that's what we're gonna do. Because look,
Amen.
where the Bible also says where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. So if you want to be captive, if you want to live a life where you are always relying on someone else, you're always depending on someone else to come take care of you, then you're captive. And I can't do anything about that for you, but I can tell you there's a better way. And so when it comes to your career, when it comes to where you're spending the majority of your life, I think you'd probably want to be free. You'd probably want to be in a position where what you put in is what you get out. And I do not mind leading horses to the water. And I think that's
Yeah.
what this comes back down to. Like, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink. We all know it. I can't make you drink, but I will lead you to the water. And that's the support that is found in guys like John and I, who we've been through it. We know what low looks like, but now we've seen the blessing of what abundance looks like. And we don't want to hoard it for ourselves. We want to invite you into that.
Yeah.
So if you're someone that wants to make radical life change, you're willing to work hard. You're willing to say, nope, I'm not going to be a victim. I'm going to be a victor. I'm going to be proactive. I'm going to go get it. I'm going to get after it. If you're willing to do that, sales is definitely where you belong. And I'd argue that tech sales is probably the most luxurious version of sales, almost like glamping, right? You can
Yeah.
go door to door and go throw, a leaf on the ground and sleep on it. Or you can bring a beautiful RV that's got AC in it. It's got a little bed in there, and you can glamp, and it's nice.
Glamping.
From Jesus to glamping, there we go. So all that said, if you're someone who is just exploring right now, you're not quite sure tech sales is what you want to do, that is totally okay. John, I think you're someone that might be able to help out with someone in that situation. So what would you share that would be helpful to them?
Yeah. So I'm over at Praxis. Praxis is a program for young adults. Typically, we work with people aged 16 to 25. That's not a hard cap, but that's just in general who we work with, who want to launch their career, want to just do some career discovery, but also usually on that older end, like the 17 to 18 plus, want to actually go launch their career, go out and seek a really cool job, get that first entry level career job where they can start building a career. We work with you to do that. I went through Praxis a few years ago. It changed my life. I went to college for a year. It wasn't for me for a lot of reasons. I did well. It wasn't because I couldn't hang. I didn't see how it made sense for me to go I didn't see it getting me from point A to point B. It seemed like off of the way I needed to be. I found Praxis, changed my life, went through the program, got a really learned tangible skills. Like the biggest things, you come into Praxis and you learn how to create value. You learn, hey, like here's these functions of a business. Here are the things that are valuable within those functions. Here's how I can create that value. Here's how I can build a personal brand. And here's how I can market this and pitch this. And here's how I can get in front of hiring managers. And that's a huge piece of Praxis. So if you're on that earlier side of your career, maybe you're not sure where you want to go. Maybe you're not certain like tech sales is something you want to do. You don't feel like you're in a position where you're going to go do that right now. Well, Praxis might be something for you to consider because it's a great opportunity for you to come in, join a cohort of like-minded people, around your age, thinking about the same things, that want to develop these skills, learn, you have intellectual curiosity, and really just want to go out there and build a career that you're excited about. And that's not just in sales, it's sales, marketing, customer success, operations. Heck, we have somebody that is now like a senior UI UX designer at United Airlines. Like we're not a
It's
technical
awesome.
program. It's not our forte, but like there's a
Yeah.
lot of outcomes that are possible. So I would just say, if that's you, if you think you're just intellectually curious, you want to go build a cool career, well then definitely I can drop some links, or you can go over my profile, go to our website, book some time to jump on a call with me. My calendar's open. Or go ahead and apply for our program, and we'd be happy to consider your application.
Love it. And look, your alternatives otherwise are you continue to work dead end jobs that are never going to get you to the goals that you have. You go to college and you literally are being robbed. You're paying for classes that you do not need to be in because the university wants your money. And you're not even sure what you want to do. So you're being forced to make this life choice at an age where you're probably not ready. That's path 2. Or path 3 is you get educated. You get put in an environment that's going to develop skills that aren't even necessarily only applicable to one job, but these are life skills that are going to help you make that decision and make that commitment of what your future looks like. So highly recommend practice. And John is an absolute servant for what he's doing over there. Now, if you do know you want to be in tech sales, then I'm about to share some information with you on exactly how you can go land a role in tech sales today. It'll take you a couple weeks for you to get everything squared away, and you will have interviews and potentially offers coming in very quickly. So I'm going to get John out of here, and then I'll pivot and hook you up with some of those resources. So John, any final words for us?
Blessing to all. Just excited about what you're doing, Jack, and I just really appreciate you having me on today. So
absolutely. Love you, brother. Thank you for being
man.
here. So you want to break into tech sales, but you have no idea where to start. Well, I'm going to show you. My name is Jack Knight. I'm with Sword Advisory, and it's my job to help you cut through the noise and go secure an entry-level tech sales role. At this point, the only people that should be watching this video are the people that want to rapidly increase their income and earning potential. They want financial freedom. They want a real career that's going to allow them to make the financial gains that they need to go hit their personal goals without sacrificing their personal lives and being absent from their families. If you're someone who wants to work hard, if you want to change your life, then this video is for you, because I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do that using tech sales as a vehicle. A little bit about me. I'm a seasoned SDR leader. I've been doing this for over 4.5 years. I am the literal position that hires you, coaches you, and manages you. So I know every single thing about the job application process, the interview process, and ultimately how to get hired. And what I do in my program is I help people like you that have different backgrounds, some sales, non-sales, people that want to work hard and transform their lives. Those are who I come alongside with. I support, I coach, and I teach you step by step how to get into tech sales. I've hired over 30 SDRs. I've managed over 60, and I've interviewed hundreds of SDRs. But even deeper than that, this is me. I was in a jail cell at 19 years old, making $24,000, I think was my W-2 for that year. God radically transformed my life. He actually met me in a jail cell, and the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, Jack, you've been living life your way. If you live life for me, I'll give you a brand new life. And I was at my rock bottom in life. But God spoke value into me. He spoke potential into me. He spoke a future over me that I couldn't even see or believe. But that's how good our God is. He loves us. He loves you. And so if this guy right here can have radical life transformation who did not deserve it by any stretch of the imagination, if that's how God wanted to open doors for me, why wouldn't he do the same for you? He's a good father. All it took was me saying, yes, Lord, and putting my faith and trust in him. So if you're willing to do that, if you're willing to say, God, I trust you with the plans you have for my life. I believe your word when it says you have plans to prosper me, not to harm me, but not to build my kingdom, but to build yours. Then God will honor that in you. And fast forward, look at the gifts he's bestowed upon my life. I don't deserve any of this. My beautiful wife, my best friend, she's incredible. Our amazing son, Jake, he is the biggest blessing ever. And it's not because I did all the right things or I'm an expert or I'm smart or any of that, y'all. It's just because God loves us and I was willing to trust him and I was willing to put him first. And if you're willing to do the same, who knows what your life looks like over a span of 4 to 7 years? Who knows? You don't know till you make that step, though. My wife, she will never have to work a day in her life again. Praise Jesus. This home we're sitting in, I own. Praise Jesus. And again, this is not about building my kingdom, but look at the impact, what God's provision has provided to impact his kingdom, to expand his kingdom. We're building a family. My wife is a full-time minister at this point, talking to people, discipling women, volunteering at a pregnancy center, while I'm out in the marketplace, investing in people, showing them what it looks like to bring Jesus into the workplace and how to love on people that the only Bible they might ever read is me and how I treat them. So God wants you to be in a position of financial abundance, not for your kingdom, but for his glory. Money is a resource. The love of money is the root of all evils, not money. That's what the Bible says. So money is a resource that we can leverage for the kingdom. My desire to provide abundantly for my family and be in a position of financial leverage came from 3 years ago. Was at a local church, and they had just announced they were building this whole school system through the church, owned by the church. And when they were talking about how much it would cost and what it would all be, they said that someone gave them a $1 million check. Didn't even put their name on it. When I heard that, that's when the Lord put a conviction in my heart that I want to be in a financial position where I could write that check one day, or that I could fund evangelist friends around me that are literally just asking the Holy Spirit day by day what they should do, and they don't know where their next provision is coming from. What if I could be the guy that is able to transfer them a couple $1,000s a month to help them live full time for the gospel? So this is the value of what this vehicle, tech sales, can provide. It allows you to be a kingdom financier. It allows you to multiply the kingdom. These are a lot of people I've been blessed to help. All of these people come from different backgrounds. They've all benefited from a lot of the stuff I put out there. And again, I don't deserve to be here. So the biggest way I can honor God with that is paying it forward. These are a few gentlemen that I've had the pleasure of working with. They all come from different backgrounds. Tyler sold Cutco. That was his sales experience. And we were able to help him break into tech sales, land an 86K fully remote role. And now he's an account executive at that company, clearing six figures like nothing. Daniel was telephone sales before breaking into tech sales. Was able to work with him, helped him land an 80K role. Now he's an account manager at discovery.org, making over six figures. Mitch was a college grad, came out of college, wasn't sure what he wanted to do, landed a 80K role fully remote with a company called Phenom. And now he's working at sales ops at alarm.com, making over six figures. Kaysen was in gym sales, going door to door, trying to sell fitness stuff before contacting me, started working with him, and we were able to help him secure a 100K role at a company called Plan Hub. He since used his experience to transition to a new company where he's making a lot more than that now, fully remote. These are some of their stories, which I won't get into, but all of these guys came from non-traditional backgrounds. They weren't sure what they wanted to do. And just through simply showing them that they, one, could do it, and two, supplying them with the resources and tools they needed to do it, we were able to radically transform their lives. Here's some more people. Megan, college grad, wasn't sure what she wanted to do. Helped her land a 102K media sales role right out of college. Nick, 25 days. That's how long it took us for him to land an 80K fully remote role in med sales. He was a bartender before this, just finishing up college. Wasn't even sure if he was going to finish college. College isn't necessary. It's just hard work. It's grit. It's getting after it. Manny was a former pastor, got into tax service sales, and decided he needed a change for his family because he wasn't able to be a present father and husband. So he needed something different, something that provided more. Helped him land a 180K role, fully remote, in just 33 days. So the way that we do this, it's pretty simple. The market is mad competitive right now. Every job you go look at has hundreds of applicants. And these applicants, they have experience, some don't. Some of them are just using, send my resume in, LinkedIn Easy Apply. It's a hot mess out there. And if you don't know exactly how to navigate this, then you're not going to be successful. How do you cut through the noise? How do you stand out amongst 500 other applicants? One of my clients, Clem, who just finished the program, he just landed a 90K fully remote role in about 62 days. Before he worked with me, he spent months putting in applications to the tune of 1,200 applications. He got 2 interviews out of that. If you don't approach the job search the right way, you'll be 3, 6, 9 months down this road of just getting auto rejections and never landing an offer. And the question you have to ask yourself is that what you're willing to settle for? Or are you willing to learn the path? And are you willing to commit to the path and execute on this to go get the result that you know that you can achieve? Very simple. First thing we do is we prepare your profile. Again, all kinds of backgrounds do well in tech sales, but it's learning how to tell your story so that when you show up as an applicant and a candidate, your story has conviction behind it of why you think tech sales is right for you, and any prior experience you have, we can tie into why you're a good sales candidate. We go over LinkedIn. LinkedIn is everything in tech sales. Everyone lives on LinkedIn. So we get that prepared for you. We go through your profile. We make sure that it looks exactly the way I want it to look as a hiring manager. Reason is, If I get 500 applicants, but only 20 of those people have a very polished LinkedIn, I'm not even looking at the other 480 people. I'm going right to those 20. Those are the people I'm interviewing. So we're going to make sure your LinkedIn presence is strong and it looks good. Then we get into your resume. The way resumes work today, they're a joke. What happens is you submit a resume. If it doesn't meet a certain threshold of keywords, then you get an auto reject email from a robot who is a robot. They don't care about you. They're not a human. So we circumvent this entire process. We don't really care what our resume says or does. The way we optimize your resume is it looks different. Because if I'm a hiring manager, I'm clicking through resumes and they all look the same, black and white, black and white, black and white, boring, boring, boring. But the way we structure resumes is different. It catches their eye. It's a pattern interrupt and it gets them to actually read your resume and your profile. Yes, you're going to get auto reject emails from ATS systems that you didn't meet the right threshold for, but it doesn't matter because we're not going to let robots reject us. We are going to get in touch with the actual hiring managers. We're going to make a human review our candidacy in our resume, and we're going to have them tell us that we are not qualified. We're not letting a robot do that. The way we do that is the second pillar. I have built a highly optimized outbound engine for you. What this outbound engine consists of is email campaigns, call campaigns, text messages, voicemails, word for word, script for script. I tell you exactly what you need to say to hiring managers, when you need to say it, and how you need to say it to land interviews. So that pack of 500 applicants down to 20. Now those 20 applicants, very competitive still. But if you're the one that's picking up the phone, if you're the one sending emails, if you're the one on LinkedIn reaching out to people, if you are breaking through the noise, and if you are standing out as a rock star candidate, they're going to want to interview you. Because me as a hiring manager, what I want to see is I want to see someone who's willing to do the job to get the job. So I teach you how to do the job to get the job. And this is very helpful because when you do land your tech sales role, you're already going to have experience doing this job. You're going to know what the day-to-day is like and you're going to hit the ground running. And even more than that is that when these hiring managers look at your resume and they're like, oh, but you don't have prior experience, it doesn't matter. You can push back and say, look, I haven't held a formal SDR role, but what I have been doing over the past 4 weeks is I've been making 30 calls a day to people like you trying to land interviews. I've been doing the job to get the job. Here's my pipeline. Here's my sequences. Here are the tools, the automations I'm running. All of that is done for you with my support. Landing interviews is important, but if we don't progress in interviews, none of this matters. Interviewing itself in the SDR context is a dance. It is an art. First interview you're going to have is typically with a recruiter. The recruiter is mostly trying to see if you're a crazy person or not. But because things have gotten more competitive, if you don't stand out with the recruiter, if you don't ask smart questions, questions that show them that you know what you're talking about with regard to outbound sales and business to business and pipeline development, they're not going to be willing to push you forward because they have 5 other people that do know what they're talking about. The next interview you're going to have, if you make it through the recruiter, is with a hiring manager like myself. These are your managers. These are your bosses. These are the people that are going to be working with you every single day. And they are trying to see if you're the right fit, if you're coachable, if you're hungry, if you're going to work hard. They're pressure testing your resilience, how you respond to failure. And they want to make sure that your goals are big enough and they're in line with the goals of the company. And if they think all of that is true, and if you answer the questions well, then they may be willing to move you forward. Now, each interview process is different. Some will have mock call components where you have to jump on a call and act like you're calling a prospect at that company and trying to pitch them on the service. Some interview cycles have a 30, 60, 90-day plan requirement. Some interviews require you to send a video of how you would respond to this objection or how you would approach this situation. Each interview process is so different and it's difficult. And if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know how to answer the questions, you're not going to get anywhere. So all these dreams you have about, man, tech sales, the money, the growth potential, to land interviews is hard enough. And if you don't know what you're doing, you won't, you can't. But then to actually progress into an offer stage, that requires you understanding what they're looking for and how to respond to their questions. So with my support, I show you every single thing that they're going to ask you, why they ask you that, what they're looking for in answers, and how you should respond. It's basically the answers to the test. But that is why coachability and initiative are the two most important things you need to do well in tech sales. I can lead you to the water, but if you're resistant and you don't want to do it, you don't want to drink, I can't help you. But you also need that initiative, because I'm not going to be monitoring if you did your calls or not every single day. That's on you. You have to be a self-starter. You have to be someone hungry. You have to have a real why, a chip on your shoulder of why you're going to work hard to get into this career path. Those are the 3 pillars to my program. The entire time you work with me, you get my support. You get my one-on-one coaching, one-on-one mentorship, all of my time. I am here to make you succeed. I can't do it for you, but I can lead you along the way, every step of the way. The way I explain what I do is I pull up in a BMW, highly efficient, highly optimized to do what it does best, get you to your destination, get you there fast. I jump over to the passenger seat, welcome you into the driver's seat, give you the keys, and I say, go. All you need to do is hit the pedal and listen to my instructions. Turn left here, turn right here. Let's go do this thing. So if you're someone who wants to break into tech sales, if you're someone who's ready for that life change, that transformation, but you don't know how to get there, this is where I come in and I support you. Even more than that, I bring in my network. I'm connected to over 10,000 people in this industry. I have hundreds of SDR leader friends. These people that are interviewing you, these people that are ultimately going to be the determining factor of whether you get a job or not. And I'm leveraging my network to make sure you get in front of these people with my words that, hey, this person is legit, they're worth an interview, and they would be worth your time. So I'm putting my network, access to my network behind you. Any job openings, private job openings that I know about way before the rest of the market does, I'm feeding to you to help you break into tech sales and land a role. The way this works is you and I are going to jump on a call together. We're going to go through your background, your experiences, and what your goals are. And we're going to make a game plan together to figure out how we're going to help you break into tech sales and land that role. After that initial call, the next thing we're going to do is prepare your profile. You're going to learn how to tell your story. I'm going to work with you to make sure it's cohesive, to make sure it makes sense. And we're going to get your resume together, your LinkedIn together until it looks perfect. Once your profile is ready, that's when we're going to go into teaching you how to do the job to get the job. I'm going to plug you into my outbound engine. You're going to learn how to cold call. You're going to learn how to send emails, how to be on LinkedIn. You will learn to do the job to get the job. Step by step, every word, every script, every template, everything you need, I walk you through and coach you through. Now you're applying for jobs. Now you're reaching out to hiring managers. Now you're landing interviews. Once you're landing interviews, time to become a master interviewer. I've got a ton of support that goes through all the questions they're going to ask you, how to respond, how to crush these interviews. Things that we do internally that help us go above and beyond, things that no other candidates are doing. If you look at my wins, testimonies, all of it, you'll see many times in there what the response is from my clients is they say, hey, this hiring manager said that I was the only person that did XYZ. And ultimately they get the offer because of that. So there's little things that we do to really stand out in this process. But you're going to become a master interviewer, and I'm going to be there to help you through that. Once you are applying for jobs, you're crushing interviews, next thing we do is we just be consistent. If you've ever been in sales, you know that you have to be consistent. We are going to put applications in every single day. We're going to check in every day. We're going to make sure that you're landing interviews. You landing interviews is important. How are you progressing? And if you're getting stuck at a certain point in the interview process, let's go diagnose that and figure out why until we get you to your role. There's a ton of training that we go through. And ultimately, if we are doing our job well, then you will have interviews on your calendar in no time. And you'll have job offers in the next couple months. That's how we roll. My average time to help someone land a job in tech sales right now, if they're able to do this and commit to it, is 27 days. That's how long it is on average. So if you're ready for radical life change in a span of a month, 2 months, 3 months, depending on your life situation, how much you can commit, then I'd love to talk to you and understand what your goals are, what's preventing you from getting there, and how I might be able to support.